good evening. Welcome to the Meteorology Lab. Cloudy day in some parts of Texas at least, other places very warm and sunny. And that's all due to kind of a late season cold front that has snuck down from the northeast. And there's what it looks like on the surface chart there. And we've got kind of a rare 30s during the afternoon in Oklahoma. You can see that right there. And I can't really think of an instance where we've had temperatures this cold in April. We can see 34 at Stillwater, 37 around Watauga, 35 at Clinton, and even 37 at Ada. So definitely some very cold weather. And even down in the Dallas area, we've had 40s today. Well, another way of looking at the chart is paper charts. So we're going to see if we can do a bit of this. This is the latest surface analysis. And we'll see if we can make this work here. Okay, I wasn't able to find very many colored pens and pencils, but I've got a couple pens here. So let's see what we can do here. What I've done here is I've done the 7 p.m. plots with the potential temperature analysis in red. So we can definitely see a very strong potential temperature boundary from northeast Texas down to the Austin area. And the leading edge, that's definitely going to be a cold front. And I got a pen roll off my desk. So these are the growing pains of surface analysis on YouTube. So there's the cold front. It's actually a stationary front at this time. It's kind of parked right there around Palestine down to about Taylor and Austin. And let's try to find the western edge. Well, we see 72 around Kerrville, so that's definitely in the warm sector. 68 at north of Uvalde. I'd probably put that in the warm sector also. Let me switch over to a red. And yeah, we'll try to get that going there. So there's the tail end of the front. There's 70 with a northeast wind. That's probably going to be just north of the front. And let me just go ahead and sketch roughly where that is. That's definitely recurving up to the north. We kind of follow that ribbon up north. And I'm not too sure where it's going to be out in New Mexico, because we go from a very gradual 47 there at Big Spring up to low 60s and mid 60s. So I'm not really too sure what air mass we have in this region. Up in the panhandles, though, we can definitely pick that up. And that's definitely kind of an unusual warm front in that area. So I'm going to put that roughly like that right there. So this area here, a little uncertain, but we can use consistency and kind of watch that from hour to hour and figure out what to do with that later. So we've got a very cold air mass, and you can see the axis kind of sits like that through Oklahoma and Texas. I should really tape this down. I keep moving this analysis all over the place. So there you go. That's the core of the polar air mass. And let's see what's happening out west, and that's where we look for cold fronts. I guess we'll leave it like that there. I'm probably going to start taping these analyses down. Looks like a very consistent air mass going from east to west. We go from 75 at Tucumcari, 65 at Albuquerque. However, the elevation is going up, definitely. And 61 at Gallup, so I don't think there's an air mass change through that area. That's probably part of the same air mass. And that's one reason we do potential temperature analysis. And we don't see like a ribbon out here. There's none of that going on. So I think this is all a tropical air mass there. So what we're watching overnight is this air here. You can see winds up to about 10 to 15 knots there around San Antonio, Austin. So that's overriding the cold air mass through here. And because of that, we're going to expect to see that boundary lift gradually northward through the night, most likely. And the big question is where that boundary is going to be tomorrow. Okay, so then it didn't go too bad there. Go back to the old digital charts and get everything fixed here. All right. Might as well zoom that out a little bit and look at the national synoptic map. And let's see, where's the fronts at this on this chart here? We're looking at more of a big picture as far as where everything is. You can definitely see a gradient through here from Wyoming all the way to Nevada and California. So it looks like our cold front is up in Utah, western Colorado, and the central San Joaquin Valley. And looks like we have another front going through northeast Colorado. And then we keep in mind our surface analysis that we just did. So I'm going to kind of use some detail from that. And there we go. So there's not a whole lot of thickness packing around the Red River, North Texas. And this is where it can be helpful to use the 1000 through 850 millibar thickness, and I've got that set up here. And now you notice it shows up a little bit better in Oklahoma and Kansas. That's because we're sampling it through a shallow layer, and that kind of resolves some of these weaker fronts. The problem there is you get a little bit more noise in the data, but you can definitely use both and kind of compare them. So that's kind of what we're doing here. So using the 1000 through 850 millibar thickness, our front definitely does show up a little bit better there, and it probably connects back with this precip region in Tennessee and northern Mississippi and Louisiana. So we don't have any thunderstorms today, and with a front like that, east-west through Texas, that would definitely be a good setup. So we're most likely lacking either instability or we are capped. So let's take a look. This is the Fort Worth sounding from about an hour ago, and looks like we got a really strong inversion there. Temperature almost 70 degrees there at Fort Worth, up at 5,000 feet, but down at the surface, it's in the 50s. So not only do we have what looks like a warm front inversion, but it looks like we're capped. And assuming that we had low 60s temperatures and a little bit of heating, we would have to reach about 92 to 93 degrees Fahrenheit to break that cap. But if we did, quite a bit of cape there due to that very steep lapse rate. So if you looked at your vertical totals there, you would probably see values up over, well, up over 20. In fact, if I take a look over here, let's see, vertical totals 31. That's about as high as it gets there. So again, that's Fort Worth there. Looks like a little bit of mid-level moisture. And let's try another sounding. Norman, that's going to be deeper in the cold air there. And we see what looks like a warm frontal inversion. And above that, the subsidence inversion. This is actually kind of like three air masses. Here's the cold air. And then we have a very thin layer of tropical air. And then above that, we've got the elevated mixed layer, which is from the desert southwest there. And I'll check on Amarillo there. They're going to be west of that warm front. and very well-defined or inverted V there. So there's an inverted V signature, a little bit of mid-level moisture. So if we had a little bit more moisture, we'd probably get a little bit of virga and maybe some elevated showers. And then down below it, quite a bit of dry air, and that's what helps to enhance that downburst potential. Okay, let's see how things are looking in chat there. Kind of a busy evening. Surprising is I didn't even set the scheduled program time there. We've got Fun with Tech and Ron Chalfant. Adam Davis woke up to snow this morning. Greg Kerner is here, and Sue M. Expecting severe weather there for tomorrow. Ron Chalfant says spring is sprung. We've got Burl H. and Adam Davis. Carl Berghoff and Thomas Copeland, Ryan Toomeys down there in Florida looking for severe weather potential in Dixie Alley. And Sue M. worried about the parking spots. Needing a retaining wall there. Christian Flock checking in from Yukon, Oklahoma, just west of Oklahoma City there. And I believe Yukon is like near the... I could swear Brahms is located out there, the headquarters. I'm not sure if I'm mistaken on that, but that's one of the things I think of there. We've got Rat Bastard in Tucson, 80s today, experiencing some of that elevated mixed layer source region. Carl Berghoff reminding people to like, and let me just go quickly through the rest of these. Mike Estwick, sunny in 64. Ryan Toomey is mentioning weather brains there. And Electric Dog just flew in, and Michael Davis mentioning Brahms plant near Tuttle. That's probably what I'm thinking of there. And Misty Soward's asking about Central Ohio. And I'll try to do that if I remember, but even the stuff that I usually prepare to talk about, a lot of times I forget that, so I can't really make any guarantees that I'll be able to cover anything specific tonight, but we'll try and see what happens. Okay, looks like just north of that warm frontal boundary, we've got a few showers popping up anywhere from Carbondale, Evansville, all the way down to Little Rock there. And when we get towards Little Rock, getting into some of the deeper moisture, and we got to keep in mind that the front runs something like that right there. So a lot of the precip that's north of that front, that's going to be elevated. And then out to the west, we pick up that polar front jet, some of the clouds associated with that, and we're probably looking at that jet coming onshore around California and moving up toward the Dakotas. There we go. Okay. Let's take a look out west on the water vapor imagery. Definite signs of a trough there. You can see that right in that region right there. So that's a lot of cold air out over the Pacific, and that's providing kind of a troughy appearance to the upper level patterns there. And then out to the west looks like another system approaching from the central Pacific there. Okay, so we've got everything. I think that's all the charts. Let me go back and make sure I covered everything. Oh yeah, the upper level charts. Let's look at those real quick. Got to get those loaded. Got to do the 500 up at 18,000 feet. 700 up at 10,000 and 850 at 5,000. Okay, so here's the 250 millibar chart for this morning. And we got a bit of a split flow pattern. There's the troughing just off the California coast. Probably picking up the subtropical jet way down here. In fact, we know that this is all a tropical air mass, so that kind of lends support to the idea of this being a subtropical jet. And then the main polar front jet looks like that's actually pretty far north, Oregon to Montana, and out towards Minnesota there. Okay, and then 500 millibars. Very similar pattern there, but you'll notice that over the southern U.S., don't see much in the way of temperature contrasts. Minus 15, minus 13, minus 10, minus 14. So the atmosphere here is fairly homogeneous. So this here is not a polar front jet. That's definitely a subtropical jet. And where we do have a temperature contrast is up north. And you see we go from minus 19, minus 18, all the way to minus 36, minus 29, minus 32 there. So this is definitely the polar front jet zone. And then looking at the 850 millibar chart, we've got some very cold air up in Canada, showing minus 20s and minus 30s, very, very cold up there in Manitoba and Ontario. So there's our fronts up in that region. This is probably heading for the northeast U.S. And then down over Texas, we can pick up some of the moisture there. This would be the 50-degree dew points covering Oklahoma and central Texas there. So there's going to be more of that coming up tomorrow. And just very quickly, I noticed a front up in Northern California there. You can see the temperature contrast, 15 at Oakland down to minus 6 there. Again, this is up at 5,000 feet, but that's pretty strong there. So that's showing that we have a cold front right in that zone there. So we can kind of tie that back to the other charts there, and that gives us kind of a three-dimensional picture of what's happening in the lower atmosphere there. All right, let's go ahead and check it out on the models. I think we're going to look at the NAM first. And let's see how things change over the next 24 to 36 hours. Okay, this starts off around midday, and there's that cold axis right there, but the overall wind flow is from south to north. So that's going to cause the cold air to recede. And there you can kind of see it doing so overnight. In fact, we get rid of pretty much all of the remaining northerly winds, pretty much southerly winds all through the chart, and temperatures picking up very strongly in the Red River with that warm air advection. Then tomorrow morning, 12Z, this is how things look. We've got a Canadian front coming south from about, looks like around Woodward to Ardmore, or Amarillo. I think we've got an early dry line set up from about Clinton down to around Midland. And the moisture axis likely running from about San Antonio up to Wichita Falls, and I'm going kind of by pattern recognition with that. So let's see how things progress during the day. Cold air blasting south through Oklahoma there. Looks like the frontal wave is up there in north of Tulsa. And don't see a sign here of where the dry line is. I'm thinking it might be in this area right here around San Angelo. This is around 10 in the morning. And very strong warm up there in West Texas. You can see temperatures coming up to almost 90 there. And the dry line has definitely pushed out of there. Looks like around Brownwood to about Edwards Plateau there. So around early afternoon, it's looking like this. Very strong north winds coming into the Red River region. Very cold temperatures back behind that. And looks like the dry line is almost up to I-35 there. And I see depressed temperatures around Temple and Waco. This is probably all some early convection that got going during the day. So that cold front definitely in a hurry, and also seeing a cold pool across East Texas there. So it looks like a lot of precip coming down from that. And then by tomorrow evening, about 10 o'clock, cold front pushing through Mississippi, outflow pools into central Louisiana, and the rest of the cold front coming through South Texas there. So this is more cold air and probably some good depth associated with that. Temperatures down to about 23 there around Wichita. Pretty crazy. And then up to fast. Yeah, that's a good warm up there. 53 during the day. And then back down to, I guess, the 30s at night there. Okay. So there's a preliminary look around the Texas area. Here's how things look on the pivotal weather charts. This is probably not going to be, this is the high resolution rapid refresh showing the isobars there, and there's the front coming south tomorrow morning. And that model goes for development around Waco down to Austin. 17Z, this is pretty early. So I think we've, let me see if this is elevated here. Let me check. This is a forecast sounding just ahead of that little cluster of showers and storms. And we do have a little bit of capping there. Let me get an idea what the convective temperature is. I'm going to guess we're going to need a parcel, something like that right there. 85 degrees. I'm not too sure if that's elevated or surface-based, because that I'll probably have to look a little bit more at these forecast soundings, but there is a little bit of a cap there. It's probably a combination of the boundaries, the strong southerly flow impinging on those boundaries, and maybe a very localized hole in that cap there, or weakening of that cap. All right, let's check out some of the other models. I've got the WRF. These are some other runs. This is the high resolution ARW window. This is indicative here of early morning warm air advection showers, probably kind of high based. And let me see here, just a moment. Okay, so this is actually a run from this morning, and let's see what happens tomorrow. There's the front coming south and development around the Waco area. Okay, so there's that scenario. Not much of a surprise there. Let's go to the NISL model there. This is tomorrow morning. No, I'm sorry, hang on a second. Yeah, there's tomorrow morning right there. It's going for some storms developing around San Saba, northwest of Austin, around Lampasas. Those are heading into East Texas there. So a little bit of prefrontal storms out around Austin at College Station. That looks pretty consistent between all the models. And then the 3-kilometer NAM. Yep, development around Austin to Temple to around Buffalo there. So a couple prefrontal storms in that area, and then the squall line gets going. And let me see if I can pull things up for up north. That front is really moving, so we're going to have to look at the Ohio Valley area. All right, so let's see here. Tomorrow morning, it's going to be looking like this. This is indicating a bit of a warm front lifting north. See that there? There's southwesterly flow all through Arkansas, the Memphis area, Nashville, and we pick up this trough. That's kind of where I put this warm front. See that trough right there? The isobars kind of kink in that area, so that's the reason I went with that there. So, warm fronts, of course, those are a very potent area for severe weather. This is only 7 in the morning, so let's see how things shape up during the day. Some of that elevated stuff does kind of die off towards 10 a.m. there. And now we're getting a little bit more surface-based stuff. This is around 1 o'clock here. Cold front from about St. Louis to about Bentonville, Fort Smith, and down to Oklahoma there. And then the warm front, that's sitting something like that right there. And I think that's kind of merged with some outflow boundaries. If you're analyzing weather, make sure you analyze those tomorrow morning. It's probably going to look something like this. Just making a guess here. Probably a couple cold pools and the warm front kind of superimposed on that somehow. Then it looks like we get some elevated or early surface-based convection in Indiana there. These already look like they're going to be kind of fast-moving. And then by 4 p.m., it's looking like this here. A lot of the surface-based activity looks like it's shifting east of Indianapolis there. And then we've got the cold front further to the west. And these are the ones we're going to be mostly concerned about. Anything ahead of that cold front would have a little bit better potential for rotation. Storms along the cold front there, you've got more problems with linear modes, and this is basically like a big cold pool. So that would help to intensify the outflow, the downdrafts, and it would be a little bit harder getting rotation going in that area. It's not to say it can't happen, but especially, you know, up towards 7 p.m. there could be a few severe cells in there. But it's those ones out ahead of the line that we've really got to watch. And the NAM is not necessarily going to get the details here correct this early. So we'll just have to look at the mesoscale models tomorrow and monitor the area out ahead of it. And if we do have anything that looks like a moderate risk, we'll probably go on early and do some of this hand analysis tomorrow. So watch the channel and the Twitter feed, and I'll try to keep you posted. Okay, let's see. Anything else we want to look at? Let me check the severe weather here. I'm going to look at the 0 through 3 kilometer SRH and just get an idea what it's showing there. Okay, there's tomorrow morning. The general pattern here showing about 400. And then midday looking at about 200 to 300. Yeah, the SRH is up there. And I'm not looking at absolute values. I'm kind of looking at, like, I'm taking the 300 line and seeing how large an area it covers. I think that's probably a better way than taking spot readings. And also we want to look at the forecast soundings and get an idea what the hodograph looks like. Yep, that hodograph is stretched out. There's 0 kilometers and there's 1 kilometer above ground level. Yeah, this is a good sounding here for tornadoes. So, yeah, Indiana, keep an eye on the warnings, and I can't tell you too much. Obviously I can't tell you what the cells are going to look like 18 hours from now. But if I do come back on tomorrow, I'll try to cover some of that. But yeah, 50 knots up at 1 kilometer out of the southwest. 15 knots at the surface. That's some very strong SRH. And you don't need much instability to get rotating storms going with that kind of helicity there. Okay, we'll go ahead and take a look at the rest of the week, and let me get this centered. There we go. This is our big frontal system there in Kansas, and you can see that moves very quickly to the east tomorrow. So by evening, when we do the webcast, it's going to be looking like this. Frontal system already coming into Ohio there. Cold front all the way down to Texas. And that's all being driven by a 1028 millibar high, pushing cold air south. So there's the fronts tomorrow evening. And we'll run this up to, yeah, some overnight storms down south. We're going to have to watch this area too. So by dawn, things kind of die down a little bit. Some early morning storms coming into the Atlanta area around morning rush hour on Wednesday. Wednesday. And then by evening, some action up in the northern New England area, up near Quebec. There's that high coming in, clearing things out across the Midwest and Southeast. And we've already got warm air advection setting up in West Texas. Looks like things are developing out in the Rockies, maybe a new low pressure area getting started. Looks like another cold blast actually. Yeah, this comes in out of Canada. 1040 millibar high, driving this air mass south. You can see over Texas we've got the southerly flow bringing that moisture north. So by Friday evening we're looking at something like this. Lots of pressure falls in Texas, Oklahoma, and New Mexico. So that puts this area here under kind of a warm air advection zone, and you can see that moisture coming north Friday afternoon. So we're going to be looking at some heavy precip there, some of it mixed phase in Missouri and Kansas. And let me give you the fronts here. That's kind of the setup there. So it looks like a frontal system there in northern Arkansas, and behind it some cold air advection coming back in. Looks like another cold weekend there for Texas. Evening storms Friday night from Arkansas to Tennessee. And then kind of a cold weekend, but you can see some very strong pressure falls out in the Rockies once again for the 7th and 8th. Here comes this next system crossing the Rockies, and looks like it's coming out around this area here on Sunday. So this whole area moving eastward towards Missouri and Illinois. There it goes, kind of elevated there, passing mostly over the cold dome for Sunday and Monday. A little bit of cold air damming there in North Carolina. And then that's out of the picture around Tuesday or Wednesday. Cold high coming in to the central U.S. So it looks kind of cold from about the 8th through the 12th. Another Canadian blast coming south. There's a Pacific system trying to come in for the 14th. That's getting kind of far out there, but that looks wet for Texas and Oklahoma. You can see the Pacific air mass right there, 1030 millibar high over Washington and Oregon. That's all that cold air there, and that's going to be moving eastward. See, there it comes over across Texas on the 15th, and you can see how cold that is. Leading edge of that cold air mass all the way. No, actually, you can't see that. Let me back that up there. Yeah, take a look in northern Mexico there. Very strong pressure gradient. And we don't really see that in April. It's kind of rare there. So we're certainly stuck in kind of a cold pattern, and I guess we're not going to break that until later in the month. Another March-like system for the northeast there, and looks like more cold air coming into the west. And then we get to the end of the map, and yeah, it still looks kind of cold there. Looks like another Pacific system coming together. That could be the start of a change in the pattern there, but this is around the 18th. Okay. So that is the forecast. Hope you enjoyed the 38 minutes of discussion. Let me take a quick look at the chat there. Okay, Fun with Tech has an interesting link there, weatherclan.com/meteorology lab URLs.html. He's got a link to all the sites. Sue M mentioning all the storms expected tomorrow. Greg Kerner. Kevin McKinney, yeah, 18Z, 2 p.m. Eastern, 1 p.m. Central. That's just a time conversion somebody asked about. Carl Burkhoff, going to be cleaning up another 8 to 11 inches of snow there. Alex Front asks, is it me or is this cold air just relentless? Yeah, it's relentless. Reminds me of some cold springs we've had, and in fact I can think of as far back as 97. April was kind of like this, not this cold. I don't think I saw 30s in Kansas back in 97, but reminds me a little bit of that. And yeah, things did improve quite a bit in May. So those of you looking for chasing, don't worry, things will definitely improve. May almost never fails to deliver. Okay, thank you all for joining. I hope you enjoyed the weathercast, and like I said, I'll try to go on tomorrow if it looks like we're going to be looking at something like widespread severe. So the criteria for that is like moderate risk, or if I happen to have like enough time, I can sit down and open up the channel. So we'll see how that goes. Thanks for joining, and hopefully we'll see you all tomorrow. Take care.